Hello everyone, Dominic here from Esports News UK. I'm joined by a special guest today. I always say I'm joined by a special guest. That's because I pick the best interviewees. So today it's Rai, the founder and CEO of Resolve, a team that's really making waves in UK League of Legends at the moment. So Rai, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too badly. Thank you so much for having me on as well. Yeah, excited to be here, excited to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's long overdue as well, Rai. So a bit of background before we start. Um, Obviously, I haven't interviewed you before with Esports News UK. I think now's a good reason. You've got an all UK League of Legends roster, which is interesting. You've gone undefeated, 9 wins out of 9 so far in the UKLC Spring 2021 season so far. And like I say, we haven't interviewed before because previously, where I worked full time for the British Esports Association, the founder of that, Chester King, he's an investor in Resolve. So there was a bit of conflict of interest. I wasn't super comfortable covering you, but now I'm no longer a full time employee. I do a tiny bit of freelance here and there, but I think that conflict of interest has kind of lifted now. So I'm happy to be talking to you. And I guess first of all, Ryan, tell us a bit about yourself, a bit about your background and setting up Resolve.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Resolve, it was called Clash Zone maybe 5, 6 years ago. It began as a Discord server. Essentially, if you want the details, my PC broke down. I couldn't play anymore for about 16 months. So I started coaching. And I started coaching my friends and then their friends. And then slowly but surely, the server grew quite quickly until we had over 2,000 people in it. And that was really the basis, that community, and doing coaching and getting more coaches in as well. That was the basis for what Resolve came to be.
Was it playing coaching, like improving people's playing ability, or was it coaching at other levels, areas as well?
So at the beginning, it was playing ability mainly. My specialty as a coach myself wasn't game knowledge or strategy. It was more goal setting and how to achieve, and pushing and developing the transferable skills as well. And through my own experiences as a player when I was 14, 15, 16, I learned a lot about essentially the do's and don'ts when it comes to things outside of the game. And I would use that to kind of help people. As well as that, I had a decent knowledge about how to improve in the game as well. But I found that often players already had that knowledge. So what they needed was help with the outside stuff, and those two
Yeah,
things together would lead to a lot of growth.
yeah, absolutely. And do you still do that stuff? You have a Discord, right? Is it now
Yes,
Resolve branded?
it's now Resolve branded, and we still offer free coaching, and
Okay.
we're working on transitioning that into our website as well. We've been wanting to do that for a good while, and now we've got the opportunity to with the investment that came in. So that's in progress at the moment, which is quite exciting. We've sorry,
Now go on.
we've
I'll
also
carry on.
we've also got a lot of coaches in as well, a lot of new coaches. And for the past 4 or 5 years, consistently people have been getting coached for free in our Discord server. We've just been trying to help people. Another thing we did was we brought in some specialists. So we worked with G Science for a while, were sleep coaches, nutritionists, sports scientists,
Yeah.
and they were helping a lot within the community as well.
Yeah, and you're saying like there'll be expansion. This isn't on my list of questions here, but out of interest, would you go down the like commercializing that route? Because I get an awful lot of press releases these days, right? Where people, services being set up, coaching services, learn from pros. You can pay this and pay that. Will you have free and premium in the future, or you just going to keep it free?
So what we want to do is be able to enable our coaches to do this on a part-time and full-time basis as well.
Right.
So through that, we will introduce opportunities for coaches to get paid coaching. There will always be free coaching. There will always be free elements, whether it's advice or full-on sessions.
Hmm.
Um, but we'll also have paid opportunities for coaches and analysts to do some freelance work as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And I should have said at the start, but I don't usually call you Rye. I usually call you Ilias. So you go by quite a few names, right? Tell us about what people can call you, what you're known as.
So most people know me as Rye. That's my alias, and I've been known by that for a long time. Even my mum sometimes calls me that sometimes. But my real name or my birth name is Ilias, but some people pronounce it Elias. and most of my friends call me Eli, which is short for Elias. So it's usually either Eli or Rai. But everyone calls me something different. Even my mum calls me Lee, so I'm not really sure what the correct one is anymore.
When you said that's my alias, I thought you were saying that's my alias.
No, no, no.
You were saying
That's just what I'm
alias,
known as.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's a bit about how you got into esports, but in terms of gaming in general, what are your sort of earliest memories? How did you first get into League and other games?
So my earliest memories, I've always been a gamer. I still remember having a PS1 when I was younger, playing games like Tekken. Those are really good memories. So my earliest games were fighting games, but from a very young age, I really loved FIFA because I was into football. And then from FIFA, I kind of transitioned into Call of Duty because my friends were playing it.
Mm.
That was around secondary school. And then I kept hearing about PC gaming when I was about 12, maybe 11 years old. So I ended up getting a PC, and I think at the time League of Legends was one of the only free games. So I started playing League of Legends. My friends got me into it as well, and I really, really enjoyed it. So from then on, I just played League of Legends. This was maybe around season 3,
Similar
and
to me. Yeah, similar time.
yeah, a long time ago. And now it's coming up on 8 years, maybe
Yeah, it's
9.
crazy. Yeah, it makes me feel old. And what in terms of your, before we jump into more esportsy questions, I'm just curious your elo, your favourite champions and positions. Because we've played together, haven't we, in the British Esports? We did a little
We
charity
have.
show match against the Null. They beat us, and it was partly because I didn't listen to one of your calls. I was off
Oh
doing
no.
my autopilot thing, which has ruined my elo last year.
Well, your Vi was really fun to play with.
Oh,
You
thanks.
did
Yeah.
you did pop off on one of those games from my memory.
I did
Uh,
okay, but yeah, they were better elo than me. I think my lane opponent in the first game, mid lane, um, I think it was Geo actually. I think it was Geomancy, and I think she's like either high gold or low plat or something. So I got trashed. Oh,
mm,
actually, no, I think she was the jungler in a sec. I can't remember now, but I think they were slightly higher elo than my mid
yeah.
silver to low gold elo.
I remember Curio popping off in the top lane as well. He played the
Yeah.
Tom Kench. We just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. So yeah, your favourite positions and things like that. You were high gold, weren't you, or plat?
I was plat last season. The annoying part for me is I can't stick to one role. I'm always switching around, going from, top support jungle. Currently, I'm maining jungle and a little bit of AD. But I don't really get to play too much anymore. I'm currently gold.
Same.
So yeah. But I do enjoy the game. I enjoy playing five mans and a little bit of ARAM.
Yeah, me too. Okay, cool. So we've spoken about the coaching side of things, the investment you've gained. What will that? How else will that help you as well? Because that's from Esports Global, headed up by Chester King of British Esports, and that was announced last year, right? So how's that going
June,
to
I
help?
believe it
What are the
was.
goals there?
So the goal is the short-term goals really are to promote to the NLC. That's something we really want to do. When the investment came in, it really helps us because now we have a good amount of money to pay player salaries and invest in the development of players as well. As well as that, we've managed to secure things such as the trademarks
Mm,
in both the UK and in Europe as well. We managed to do that just before Brexit, so we saved some money. And with other things such as our physical location, we essentially want to create. Um, we want to be the team that develops the best players in Europe, and I think so far what's important that we do is that we get to the top level because competitive play and competitive experience is a big part of player development. And we aim to be at the top level because we want to be creating the future stars of the LEC, of LCS,
mm.
who knows, maybe even LCK, and the other regions. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's been very helpful that way. It's also allowed a few of us to commit more time to the organization and to our crafts. I'm lucky enough to be doing this full time now, so I'm learning a lot about running organizations, about marketing, about even competition, which is my area of expertise. Doing this full time has allowed me to learn a lot more. So yeah, I'm really grateful for it.
you've touched on a few things there that were on my list later on. Ilias, do you mind if I flip between Ilias and Brian? I'm used to calling you Ilias.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ilias is fine. Yeah, go for it.
You mentioned, this is an interesting point. So, Alex from London Esports mentioned this on Twitter. we was having a little chat on Twitter, Scott and a few other people in the UK League of Legends scene, and Alex made the good point that I said something about where do orgs go. I think in answer to one of Scott's questions, which was like he was like, what is there for orgs other than get promoted? And I said, well, yeah, the rosters don't always stick together. There isn't much else other than getting any NLC and get there. And then Alex and I think Josh Ferndog was saying about, well, actually, it's a role of an org to allow players to get to the next level and actually monetize it. And that was a good point, because I've seen orgs like Endpoint in CSGO do seemingly quite well there with big players that bigger orgs have taken from them. But of course, if they've got a contract in place and a buyout clause, there's money to be made there. Do you think, is that the route you'll be going down, or you want to keep the players? That's a good role, is it, for a UK org to be able to monetize the selling of players and allow them to get to the next level?
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of both. There's two things we need to think about. One is long term, do we want to potentially go into the franchise model when an opportunity comes up, if an opportunity comes up, or do we want to hover around the top? The second one is, do we want to be a feeder team, or do we want to be someone who's contesting for Worlds, for example, or contesting for the top of E Masters? And my answer, whenever I'm asked that question, is both. I think as an organization, we're in a unique position where we're going to be able to develop the top talent, or we're going to attempt to at least put through what we know and the systems that we put in place to develop talent and help people reach their potential. And if people can go on to better opportunities, absolutely. I think there's no harm in that. I think that's great for the player. And if the organization benefits from it as well, absolutely. I think we're going to see the kind of transfer market side of League of Legends esports specifically develop a lot over the next few years. I think agencies are becoming more prominent as well. This whole side is developing very, very fast. And I think it's important that organizations realize that is, a part of a sustainable organization model, the buying and selling on of players. But for us, we always aim to keep the players that we develop and that we grow. But if we can provide the opportunity for them to move on to a better team or a better league, then absolutely.
And you mentioned short-term goal there, get to NLC. Ilias, again, that's one of my questions. What are your sort of longer-term goals? Because, Misfits and teams like that, they were the last of their kind, making it through from lower-tiered tournament, getting through the EU-LCS as it was then, or Challenger Series and the EU-LCS, and they got in as one of the last teams. And obviously, then people had to pitch to Riot to get included in the more franchised setup of the LEC as it is now. So what do you do? Say you do get to the NLC, whether it's this split or whenever it is. What do you do once you're there? Because getting into the LEC is, well, we've had no team sort of drop out yet, have we? We've had a rebrand or two, but what do you do at that point?
Yeah, I think to be a successful organization in League of Legends, you don't necessarily need to be in the LEC. I think with the LEC comes a lot of responsibility, comes a lot of costs, a lot of stress. We're perfectly comfortable sitting in the NLC for a while and developing our reputation, developing our brand, developing our players, and giving those opportunities to the players who want to climb up the ladder and end up in the LEC or the LCS. For us, we have another stage. We have the EU Masters, and then we've also got the other challenge. We've got the academy teams, Excel and Fnatic sat in that league as well. I think we can do a lot, and it's quite fun thinking about it. We want to challenge them. We want to push for EU Masters, and we want to show that we could be the best team in Europe. And whether or not the opportunity comes for LEC doesn't really matter, as long as we're doing our best to, achieve what we can.
Would you look at, say you get to the NLC and you're successful and you're looking for other opportunities, would you branch into other leagues, or I don't even know if that's allowed actually, I should look into that, but in terms of like Spanish league and other leagues like that, setting up separate teams, or would you also look at other games as well? Because I know some UK orgs have done well branching out into the likes of Rocket League and other games,
So we do have plans to go into other esports. I'm not going to mention which ones just yet, but we're in advanced talks with some rosters.
Okay.
So that should be happening I think it depend because we're a little bit kind of midway through the season in a lot of these esports. It will either happen when the season starts, or we might just push the button now and decide to go in. But hopefully more news on that soon. With the other leagues, the way it works is that you can't have two teams in equivalent levels. So if you have a team in the NLC, you can't have a team in the LFL, for example. You'd have to have a Division Two
That's
team.
it. Yeah, so like
Yeah,
G2, for example, they're in the LEC and then they have their Arctic, G2 Arctic in the Spanish scene, for
exactly.
example. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's lower
And
tier.
if they wanted a third team, they would have to be in the Division Two, for example.
That's it.
I'm not sure if they're allowed a third team, but yeah, for us, we've toyed with the idea of going into other regions, and I think ultimately what we're most likely to do is come into the UK with an academy team.
Yeah.
That's our next objective, which we'll be looking to launch soon and trying to get into the UKEL and then subsequently the UKLC.
Yeah, it's great to
If
have that
we
tiered system now, isn't it? And
yeah, and that's if we get into the NLC. No guarantee yet.
yeah, no problem. And on that, with you, you've obviously got an all UK roster. Have been doing incredibly well, and this is at a time where some people have criticised, saying, "Oh, there isn't enough UK talent in UK League of Legends. We're going outside a lot. There's a lack of players." But you've put that together. So interesting to hear your thoughts there. And was that? Let's be honest. Was that all your idea? That sounds like the kind of thing Chester would want to do as well. These British players.
So believe it or not, it was no one's idea.
Oh right.
It just kind of happened. We were looking for the best players. We weren't looking to do a 5 UK roster intentionally. We were just looking to get the best players we can.
Right.
And the way the kind of pieces fell during the off season, with some of the changes, some of the other organizations, turning their backs on certain players, we ended up with the opportunity to pick up, or the situation where the best players we could pick up were 5 UK. So we decided to do that, and of course we were very happy with it. Because we're a UK organization, we want to support UK talent, and we're really, really happy with our roster. Also, can I just say, having 5 UK is a really, really fun working environment as well. The players have some great personalities, but yeah, it just kind of happened, really.
That's interesting, and now you're reaping the benefits. And in on the UKLC, how's it? Obviously, you're doing really well. What's your thoughts on the competition there? Do you think you'll easily get through to NLC?
I think we don't really need to worry about the UK teams necessarily when it comes to getting to the NLC. I'm very confident that when we do get to playoffs, that we will finish in the top two at least. I'm confident that we should be winning it, and that's of course the goal. We do have London Esports on Saturday, so we'll kind of get a good gauge of how they are as a team now. But once we get to Telia, I think there's a couple of teams that could challenge us, but I think ultimately my conclusion is, even with the NLC teams at the bottom who we're going to face in relegation, it's ours to lose. If we do end up losing, it's going to be our own fault rather than what the other teams did well.
Yeah, I almost forgot about Telia there in between UKLC and obviously the other leagues around Northern Europe and the NLC. But yeah, I was going to say about London Esports, they're kind of your closest competitor. Kind of. I mean, there's quite a few mid-table teams that are on similar points there, but London are second at the moment with 6 wins, 3 losses, I believe. So, like you say, it'll be good to see how you do this weekend.
Yeah, I think so for sure. We have a good history with London. I think definitely, we're 2 teams from London, which kind of adds to the rivalry a little bit. The other side of it is they were the team that knocked us out from getting into the UKLC back in June of 2020.
Oh yeah.
So there's definitely a little bit of a rivalry there, but they're a good organization. They're a very good roster as well. So it's just going to be about how we perform, and I think. I do believe it will most likely end up being us in London who do get through to Telia, but I think M&M do have a shout as well.
Okay, cool. One thing I had to ask, Ilias, because I remember in early days in the scene, not so much where you set up your coaching side of things, but getting involved with Resolve a bit more. Early on in the scene, you got into a few verbal sparring sessions with people on Twitter. But since then, you've kind of done your talking on the Rift. What have you learnt from your time in the scene so far? Do you feel that's aided you positively? Have you changed at all? Or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think it's hitting me positively. I think back then I was a little bit more impulsive due to kind of certain situations that I was dealing with, certain circumstances. But I think, I was taking certain things personally and I wasn't thinking logically and I ended up acting on it as well. Um, Ultimately, I think those experiences helped me grow quite a bit because back then, I guess I was a little bit more immature than I am now when it comes to dealing with things like criticism and um, negativity. That's inevitable. Everyone gets criticism. Everyone gets. Sometimes the criticism's not constructive, but you should never react personally to it. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, everyone's entitled to their opinion as well. So I think it was a really good lesson learned.
Yeah, I think as well. I think I don't know what it is, but I seem to see when there's. I know you weren't a newcomer to League of Legends, but newcomers in UK League of Legends or UK or esports in general, I do see that happen when there's people making waves or starting to make an impact. There is a little bit of pushback. When I set up my news site, there was quite a bit of that, and I didn't
Mm.
know if I was doing something wrong or if people didn't like me. But then it's almost like I don't know if it's like a testing phase where the community's just trying to see if you're the real deal or something like that. But it seems to be a bit of a trend I've noticed with people coming in. You know.
Yeah, I think it has been as well. I've seen it in the past. For me, I think this is the beautiful thing and the also kind of bad thing about UK sports. It's a very tight knit kind of community, and if there's an outsider coming in, they got to earn their trust and earn their respect. But the other side of it, and I have to say, the UK esports scene isn't wrong for this. There have been some major issues that have happened from organizations who have been saying, or promising certain things, and it's ended up going badly. I think we've seen it quite recently as well, with the whole kind of Munster rugby feeling thing. But it can be quite difficult to trust an outsider in a UK scene just based on the way it's built and the experiences that people have had. But I will say I am appreciative because even when we did make that sort of mistake, I was given a second chance essentially by the community, and since we've shown what we're about, the support has been quite immense. So I'm really grateful for it. I do understand it. I think it's a difficult situation for outsiders trying to come in, but I think if you just stick it out and you kind of earn that trust and earn that respect a little bit, it gets better.
And just on like your UK League stuff as well, because I think you had an academy team, right, at some point, or a women's team. What's happened with those? What are your
Yeah, so we,
plans?
we do have a female team at the moment. They're called Resolve Blue, and we just announced that maybe 3 weeks ago. So
Okay.
that's pretty cool. With the academy team, they were competing in a league called Square One. I'm
Yeah.
sure many people know about it, but unfortunately, Riot shut them down.
Yeah.
And then we essentially had to stop competing because we didn't really have a place to compete. So we put it not on pause, but we basically moved everyone who was in the academy uh, to the main team system when it comes to
Right.
coaching, training, watching scrims, that sort of stuff. And we allowed a lot of those players to move on if they wanted to. And so a few of those players did move on to other teams. But we will be relaunching the academy soon. It was quite an unfortunate situation. We had Caltis who just moved to the academy from the female team, and it was maybe 5 or 4 days before she was due to play her first match that it was announced. So
Oh gosh, unlucky timing.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So before we move on, we've spoken about your aims for Resolve. What are your general thoughts on UK League of Legends?
Um,
I know it's a very broad question. We've kind of covered it a little bit, and I've seen it change a lot in the past 5 years I've been covering the site. I do think it's more professional now, and we've got this structure. But I was on this talk show with Officer Naughty of M&M Gaming and
I remember. Yeah.
Josh Ferndog and Smeagol, and we spoke about like all the different tiers and the structure there is now. And I said there's almost too much because you've got school and college stuff with British Esports and so on. You've got university stuff with NUL, NSE, Amazon University Esports. Then you've got, lower tiers and online cups and UKEL, UKLC, Telia, NLC, then EU Masters, LEC. It's almost so much. I know it's good that we have that, but my views are I'd love to see more people watching UK League. I'm not criticising Riot or organisers or DreamHack. I think the setup is good, but I would love to see more interest. But it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the viewership in the UK is notoriously low, especially when you compare it to other regions. And as a scene, I think in esports in general, we're usually one of the top ones. But of course, that hasn't really been the case when it comes to League of Legends for whatever reason. I think if you look at our Rainbow Six, CS:GO, definitely FIFA and Call of Duty, we're doing really well. I think I'm not going to try and guess why League of Legends is so different, but I remember back in the day, it felt like there were a lot more people from the UK playing League of Legends than there is now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the steps taken by Riot and DreamHack are definitely positive ones for the UK. The introduction of the NLC, the merger. I think it's a shame that there's only 2 EU Monster slots. But I think we're heading in the right direction overall. And if we think about the organizations, I definitely agree with you that it's got more professional. I think everyone's learning quite well. And I think hopefully in a few years, the UK scene is going to be in a much better place where we can see viewership rise.
Yeah. I think it's LEC, isn't it? I think the UK League fan. I watched a documentary on XL Esports on BBC recently, and they followed some XL fans all from the UK. I think the UK League of Legends fans in the UK are going to watch the LEC first, aren't they? Really, and then the bigger fans might trickle down and so on. Just out of interest as well, Ilias. So you're based in London. Have you always lived in London? It'd be interesting to know a bit about your background.
Yeah, I was born and raised in London, so I've lived here my whole life. Even went to university here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
A specific area? Because I've got family in East London, and my dad supports, and I followed him, supports Arsenal in North London, so I'm kind of East North.
So I was born and grew up in Fulham, right next to Chelsea Stadium, so I support Chelsea. And,
no. Right, we're cutting the interview short now.
But yeah, I moved around a little bit, but I've mostly stayed around West Central London. I lived in Kensington for a while.
Yeah.
I'm currently based in Wembley Park because I came here for university. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, all London then. And I've spoken about NLC and if you get there, London Esports. We've actually covered quite a few more of the points here, Ilias. It looks like through talking we've covered off most of the points. So, is there anything else you wanted to add? I mean, what time are we on here? About 30, 40 minutes. So yeah, we can add a few more points. Yeah, anything else you want to add? Any shout outs or like future announcements or anything like that?
Future announcements. Nothing so far, other than the fact that we got our coaching site on its way. With the facility, I know you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, sorry, I've missed that. Yeah, sorry. I sent discussion points beforehand, and I've missed the facility. In your press release last year, it mentioned you'll be opening this facility in London, a physical training centre for the training and development of new players. So yeah, what's the latest on that?
Yeah, so of course it's important to us that we're able to provide everything we can to develop players in every single area, taking a holistic approach and creating a growth environment, a physical one. Unfortunately, with coronavirus happening, it's been very, very difficult to go and view sites, and things have been put on pause a little bit. But hopefully this year that should be happening sometime soon. We did look at a few more locations recently, and yeah. Hopefully soon we'll be able to execute on it, but until this situation has passed, it's very unlikely that we'll be able to do that.
So what will it be exactly? Will it be mainly for your players, or will you allow others to come in? Because recently I saw this announcement from London Spitfire that I thought was quite interesting. This flight school they're doing where you can pay whatever it is, 50 quid, or I can't remember what it was, 90 quid or a bit more, and you get some merch included, and you get trained by the first team and the coach, and you can do a Q&A and get to know them a little bit. Like, will it just be for training your team, or will there be other initiatives for the community and so on?
There'll definitely be other initiatives. It'll be a result based, so not just for the team, but the whole coaching and community side that we do. Things like mental health workshops and panels, physical health, nutrition. Spreading that ideology of a holistic approach to health and well-being to impact performance.
Yeah.
That's what we're aiming to do, and it's not just for the team; it's for everyone. Our teams will be based there. But we're definitely going to be doing things like courses and workshops as well, and allowing people to come in and experience certain things as well.
That's great. Would your team? This is a question around. If you got to Telia, you got to NLC. I know it's always a hard question for owners and team managers to answer. But would you like to keep that team together? I mean, they're doing so well. What if one gets picked up by, for an example, an NLC team or an LEC team? I guess you just have to accept it, or what are your thoughts?
Well, if we get into NLC, we'd ideally be keeping a good number of these players. It's going to depend on how they perform through Telia as well, because that's going to give us a better gauge of how they're going to handle stronger competition. Because I'll be honest, I don't think UKLC is adequate testing when it comes to competitive performance. But we do have scrims as well, and that's been going well. So ultimately, we want to keep as many people as possible at the moment. That might change, that might not change. But it's also going to depend on, the opportunities that they get. Because if an academy comes for a player or two, of course, we're going to encourage them if we feel like it's a better opportunity for them to go and take it.
Yeah.
The other side of it is, we wanted to keep as many people from our last roster, but, NLC and Pro Div teams ended up coming quite late on and picking up players. So it's quite unpredictable, the off-season.
And one thing I want to ask, one player I want to mention is Artorias, because he's impressed me in the top lane. Obviously, for people watching, the brother of Prosfair, and yeah, he's been doing well. Like, he's impressed me. He's been around in the scene for quite a while. Tell us a bit about your thoughts on him.
So, Artorias is an interesting one because, as far as I know, he's never been able to do this full time. Imagine before the split, every single performance you've seen, he's played really, really well, and he's been balancing that with, full-time work and being able to support himself outside. So this split, as far as I know, is the first split where he's been just League of Legends, and we're seeing it in his play. He's just playing amazingly. Artorias is a great personality as well. And he's definitely improved a lot since last split, in my own opinion.
Yeah, and definitely, and shout out to the other guys as well. Soft Chimera, Yusa, Fast Legged. They've been doing really well. They've obviously got that chemistry. Is it like? I guess it must be quite a good atmosphere. And it's interesting you say. Look, I'm not saying people coming from outside or Europe or elsewhere in the world. Sometimes you do get some language barriers and culture barriers. We saw that in the XL Esports documentary with a couple of the Korean players. I can't remember who it was now, but one of the English-speaking players was like, please, can you stop talking in Korean for a second? And it got a bit heated. I guess you don't have that so much.
No, I think that's one of the hidden benefits of having 4UK. I think 5UK's hidden OP. I recommend a lot more organizations to try it, because the communication, they get their points across really quickly, and they use terms which even you might consider some of them English slang, or it's just quicker ways of saying stuff, and they all understand it. So they kind of have their own way of talking, as opposed to how it would be in a mixed team.
Yeah,
and it's really cool to see, to be honest.
I haven't followed your content that much. I've been so snowed under with taking this full time doing my consultancy. But you're going to release team comms content or anything like that?
We already have.
Oh, you have. Sorry, I feel bad. I've missed that. I'm going to go and check that out.
So in our weekly highlight videos, we include a lot of the comms while the plays are happening. So you can watch the play, and it will be the casters, and then it will switch to the comms, and then you see some cool reactions. There have definitely been some funny moments as well. Yeah. So that's on our YouTube channel, and on our Twitter as well. You can find them.
Okay, cool. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, Elias, as well, is a bit about Resolve. Like, I don't really talk to orgs much about this, but I'd like to do it. A bit about the logo, the name, ethos, and origins. Really, what's that all about?
So when when I was younger, I always had the dream of starting an esports org, and I feel like coming up with the name is the most difficult part of anything,
Mm,
whether it's summon a name or your esports team or anything. Even if
absolutely.
you're playing FIFA, you got your ultimate team name. Um, but for me, Resolve kind of symbolized a lot for me because to get to this point, I've had to battle through some stuff, and everyone has the things they battle through. And for me, through that, I learned that no matter what happens, as long as you keep going, things will get better.
Mm,
And if you do have a dream, as cliche as this might sound, if you have a dream, you should just dream as big as possible and then not worry about how you're going to get there. Just start taking steps forward and don't stop because you'll get there eventually. So showing resolve, having that resilience, the whole hashtag show your resolve, it all kind of buys into that philosophy that no matter what happens, just keep going.
mm,
And no matter how you feel, things will get better. You're going to get there eventually. And I think not many people know this because, a lot of people meme about resolve money and stuff like this. But, this really started. I was a kid with no money, and that's how this started.
mm.
And, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just started taking steps in the right direction. Yeah, just kept going. And we got to the point where we're here. So it really means a lot to me, the name Resolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And the logo is sort of like a shield, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the designer who made it is Travis Beck, and he's a brilliant designer. You might have
Mm.
seen him on Reddit. He actually did the whole rebrand for the LAC and the LCS.
Oh, right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, those got quite a lot of traction. So he created our logo, and there's three parts to it. One of them is the anchor just over here,
Mm.
which symbolizes having strength and resilience, and
Of
even when the
course,
waters
yeah. I
get
feel like
rough.
an idiot for not noticing the anchor thing now. God dear, I'm
That's
old.
okay. No, I mean people see it how they want to see it. People see it differently. A lot of people
Mm.
say it's a flower and stuff. So
Oh wow, that's it. But
I
I
guess
think that's
it's
quite cool, seeing it because I interpret it as I see it as a shield,
yeah. So
kind of.
everyone sees it differently, which
Yeah,
is quite cool. I think it might resonate with different people in different ways.
yeah,
So you've got the anchor, and then you've got the triangle, which is apparently the strongest shape in nature.
yeah, yeah.
For me, the triangle symbolizes the three kind of important parts to us, which is the community, the staff team, and the competitive side as well. Um, so community competitive side, and yeah, it's really really brilliant that way. And then the shield is of course the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's very clever. And actually, as well, to any Zelda fans out there, power, courage, and wisdom, of course, the Triforce. But yeah, that's enough of my geekiness. And my son's just started. Well, I wanted to get him into playing Ocarina of Time. I downloaded it on the Wii U, but my wife's like, "What's the age rating?" I was like, "Oh, it's a 12." He's like, "She's not. He's not playing that." So yeah, we've got to wait. We've got to wait a few years for that. But yeah, no, that's a great insight. And like you say, Ilias, you've been through a lot, and obviously I won't press on that if you don't want to go into it. But it could be something that you maybe open up in the future and to people, because I know of the things you've been through, but not everyone in the community does. So when you was during that period where verbal sparring on Twitter, maybe not everyone knew what you were going through.
Yeah, it's in the past now anyway. So I think it's important just to move forward.
Absolutely, yeah. And on that note, that's a great note. Moving forward, resolve, showing resilience. Um, Great place to end the interview. Is there anything you want to add, Ilias? Anything we haven't covered? I think it's been quite a good, comprehensive chat.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think we got a lot out, and I keep saying it, but I never really believed that I could accomplish or we could accomplish the things that we did, but
Mm,
went for it anyway. And looking back now, I see how everything came to be. But when I was in that starting point, I never saw it. And it was I could have easily just said, what, I'm gonna do something safer or quit. I think it's important that if you do have that something which you would love to accomplish, that you just go and you try and do it, because you never know where you're gonna end up.
yeah, no, that's a great point. And you know what? I would like to end it on there, but I've just thought of something here. I might edit this actually afterwards, but I should have mentioned this because you won a business award, right? Tell us a bit about before you launched Resolve. you've been sort of done some entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah, so my university offered had a competition. It was the UCFB entrepreneurship competition, and I ended up entering it in my first year. I was encouraged to by my lecturers, and ended up winning £5,000 of funding, which is
Wow.
really great. And then I did it again the next year and ended up winning it again.
Oh,
Um,
great.
so we had a good amount of funding kind of before the investment came in, £10,000. And yeah, I think especially if you're in university, a lot of universities offer great opportunities to kickstart your ideas.
Hmm.
My university certainly did. I think it's important to look for those opportunities and just go for them because you never know how they might end up.
And both of us on this call, I entered a competition at uni that my lecturer encouraged me to launch, devise a new magazine, and I did an online gaming one, and then I won the competition. Unfortunately, there was no money involved with that, but then that's what gave me the idea with, well, I'd like to launch my own publication. Then esports started growing, so I thought, well, I'll turn it into a esports one. So, but that's the job. That's a sign of a good leader and a good teacher. I think helping people find their strengths and pursuing what they want to pursue, really, and coming up with their own ideas and stuff. So I know I've
Yeah,
waffled
that's
a bit
really
there.
awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good, and good luck to resolve. I'll be watching. I hope to watch more. Megalodontus is kind of my eyes and ears in the UK scene these days, as I do other bits and pieces. But I do try and tune in where I can, and I think I will tune in for the UKLC, the match you've got versus London. Be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, good luck rest of this split, Ilyas. Anything else you'd like to add?
Um, I guess I should just thank the staff team as well for being here this whole time because, man, I don't know if I'd be able to do this without them. They just do so much good work. So thank you guys, and also thank you to the team for working so hard every week and doing so well so far. Keep it up. We're gonna get
Excellent.
there. So yeah,
Good
thank you, Dom.
stuff. Okay, well, thanks again, Ilyas. Best of luck with the rest of the split, rest of the year. And everyone watching this, I hope you enjoyed that. Like I say, I hope to do these long weekly interviews. If you have any feedback or any suggestions for me, just give me a shout. My DMs are open on Twitter, and you can comment on YouTube and so on. So thanks again, Ilyas. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.